Throughout the world, Alcatraz is renowned as the federal prison that housed the 20th century's most notorious criminals. But few people realize that prior to the federal prison years, Alcatraz had a rich and important history as Fort Alcatraz, a United States Army post. Shortly after gold was discovered in California in 1848, military and local leaders realized that the San Francisco Bay needed organized protection. A multi-fort system was envisioned, and a fort in the middle of the bay on Alcatraz Island became the linchpin of that plan. During the construction of the fort, artillery emplacements, or works, were placed strategically around the perimeter of the island. Eventually, over 100 cannons covered all angles of approach. At the top of the island's highest peak stood the most elegant of Alcatraz's structures, the Citadel. This large, castle-like fortification had bastions on two opposing corners and a dry moat, or ditch, that extended around the entire building. Although the Citadel was 3 levels tall, only 2 of those levels were above ground level. The first level rested in the lower moat section. 2 drawbridges that extended over the moat to connect to the second floor provided access to the Citadel. If an enemy was able to overcome the island's primary armament, the Citadel was considered the last defense of the island. For this reason, much of the Citadel's interior space was reserved for housing soldiers and officers. Despite all of its works and fortifications, Alcatraz soon lagged behind in its ability to defend against newer war technology. Even Civil War weaponry was too advanced for Alcatraz's obsolete masonry structures. But although Alcatraz could not keep pace as a fortress, the military's need for a San Francisco prison shifted the destiny of Alcatraz forever. In 1907, Alcatraz was decommissioned as a fort. To create a new military prison, the old Citadel needed to be demolished. However, only the upper 2 levels of the Citadel would be taken down. The lower section that lay below the moat level would remain and serve as part of the foundation for the new cell house. Once completed in 1912, the Alcatraz cell house was one of the most innovative prison designs in the world. But hidden below, a portion of the old 1859 Citadel still existed. As military prisoners populated the cell house, Alcatraz's commandant found new uses for the old Citadel. Down below, in the old ditch outer wall, or counterscarp, were 8 casemate-like rooms used for storage. These isolated chambers were refitted with barred entrances and ring bolts for chains. Military inmates who broke the rules could find themselves manacled in a standing position in complete darkness. Later, when Alcatraz was transferred to the federal prison system, James Johnston, the first warden on Alcatraz, used these isolation cells as deep solitary. In 1938, these cells were finally abandoned as an inhumane form of punishment. Throughout the decades, the mystique of the Citadel has generated many myths and legends, many of which continue to this day. Let's take a short tour of the Citadel to discover the truth about this little-known part of Alcatraz. As we descend the stairs from the A-block entrance, notice the herringbone stone pattern on the floor of the ditch. To the right of the ditch stands an approximately 10-foot-high counterscarp wall. This wall provided a preliminary line of defense when the drawbridges were raised. To the left is the lower floor of the Citadel. These gun-slit windows are fitted with heavy hinged iron shutters that can be secured during an attack or when reloading weapons. Around the corner, 4 storage rooms come into view. These are 4 of the 8 chambers that were used as solitary cells. Originally, these storage rooms had masonry front walls and wooden doors and a single window. The rooms held wood, coal, and other supplies. Later, when the storage rooms were converted into solitary cells, metal grilled or barred doors were added. Many of the walls within these rooms are scarred with the inscriptions carved by the men who spent time on Alcatraz. These inscriptions include the serial numbers of both military and federal prisoners. Carved into the wall at the back of the first cell is number 11461. This number belonged to Philip Grosser. Grosser was an anarchist who refused alternative service during World War I and was tried for mutiny. He spent 2 14-day stretches in these dungeon cells. Although he was able to sleep during the evening, his mattress was removed at daylight and he was shackled to the front bars in a standing position. Because the back of the cell was wet, Grosser thought that the cells were below water level. In a way, he was correct. The water cisterns were on the other side of that wall. As you walk around the next corner and proceed down the north side of the Citadel's ditch, you can almost imagine those men and women who once lived here. At one time, you might have seen the wives of soldiers gathered in the garden, drinking tea and writing letters to family members about their uneventful existence on this remote outpost. On sunny days, soldiers might decide to enjoy a game of tennis on the front court. Ahead is the West Bastion. 3 of the gun-slit windows have been removed, allowing a view into the building. Here we can see the outside wall of the 3 jail cells that were part of the Citadel's original design. While the 2 outer cells had gun-slit windows, the center cell was windowless. The iron vents that connected the adjoining cells provided the only air movement in this area. Continuing around the West Bastion, we are now directly opposite to the starting point of our Citadel tour. On the wall in front of you, a shadowy relief of a stairway pattern can be seen. These wooden stairs allowed access to the ditch from above. In the event of an invasion, the stairs could be destroyed, securing the Citadel with the moat's full protection. Around the next corner, we arrive at the second set of 4 storerooms. The first storeroom contains proof that federal prisoners were also placed down in the Citadel's solitary cells. Here, cut into the wall, is the date September 8, 1934. Approximately 1 month after Alcatraz opened as a federal prison. These markings are from Alcatraz inmate Leo McIntosh, number 74. The records indicate that McIntosh was placed in the Citadel for violating the Alcatraz no-talking policy. From the information scratched into the wall, we can deduce that he was held in the Citadel for 17 days. As we look out of this storage room, we can see into the Citadel's center hall. This main hall connects all the rooms on this level. On the wall to the left, we see where a stairway of the upper level once existed. Originally, the Citadel had 2 separate staircases for each level. One staircase for enlisted soldiers, the other staircase for commissioned officers. Similarly, a vertical wall partitioned the entire Citadel into 2 sections. Officers were allocated approximately 2/3 of the Citadel space, while the remaining third was given to the enlisted ranks. Now we come upon a low, narrow corridor. The ceiling of this corridor was lowered to accommodate a utility corridor soffit from the cell house above. Looking in, we see a masonry bench-like structure toward the end. This structure served as a privy for commissioned officers. It was conveniently located inside the Citadel. In contrast, enlisted personnel were provided with a communal privy that was built into the counterscarp wall outdoors. In the last room of the tour, we enter a storage room for one of the kitchens. This space, like all of the rooms in the Citadel, had plaster walls and vaulted ceilings. You can imagine detailed wood trim, furniture, and glass windows. Notice that the plaster walls end before they reach the floor. At one time, a raised wooden floor would have covered the original rock surface below. Openings in the masonry below the boards allowed for air movement and ventilation. In the 1880s, the Citadel underwent an extensive remodel and it became an officer's apartment house. By this time, the need for additional light and air circulation was deemed more important than the security of the narrow gun-slit window. Here, 2 gun-slit windows are converted to a single large window. The Citadel served many purposes throughout the years: defense of San Francisco Bay, housing for the military, and punishment for prisoners. And while many myths and legends have enveloped this little-known area of Alcatraz, the Citadel's true story can now be found under the rock.